Hello, friends, and welcome to Binge O'Clock, the podcast where we watch something and then we talk about it. I'm Joy Selden, and I've seen almost everything.
I'm Danielle and Joy, and I've seen almost nothing.
And we're back.
We're back!
From our unscheduled week hiatus.
We're sorry to have kept you waiting, particularly
Yes.
on the episode where we're discussing the 3 finale episodes of season 1. Like, come on.
I know. The momentum came to a screeching halt, and we apologize. It was beyond our control. But we are back, and today we're going to be talking about Kipo season 1, episodes 8 through 10, which, I mean, a lot happened, so we should just jump right into it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can't believe we're already at the end of season 1. That happens
I know.
really quickly. And I know they're short episodes, but still, it caught me by surprise.
Yeah, it's interesting because it feels like the end feels almost like a mid-season finale. And maybe that's because my brain is just like, well, there are only 10 episodes per season.
Yeah,
right?
that's fair. Like,
so I feel
in
like
an anime show, it would be 26 episodes per season or something like that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. Like, I sort of view Kipo and the Age of the Wonderbeasts as this, like, long-form one season that they break up into acts.
Mm-hmm.
Really more than seasons. Because, like, it has a season arc and definitely ends on a cliffhanger, which is great.
Yep.
But, like, it feels almost like a mid-season finale. And now it's like, and now what are we going to do? You know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, I thought that this season was actually really wonderful, and we can get into it, I think, a little bit more after we talk about each of the episodes individually. But I think that even though so much happens and it feels fast, and the show is in and of itself fast-paced and exciting, it doesn't feel rushed. Because it's like, they've got a great cast of characters, but all in all, we really only got the backstory on 2 of them, right? Which I appreciate. I'm not upset by, because I think that if they tried to give me all of the backstory all at once, it would have been one of those ensemble shows where it just feels really disjointed and nothing is coming together. Like, I trust the show, and I trust that they're going to give me Benson's backstory and Dave's story, hopefully, fingers crossed, when the timing is right, you know?
Yeah, and more, and like, we still have so many unanswered questions about Kipo and where her powers come from, and like, and what's going on with that. And like, we get some answers to that, but not the full story. And we're still uncovering a lot of stuff. But no, I think that's exactly it. It's weird to say it's not a rushed show because so much does happen. In one episode, so many things happen. But the storytelling is such that the vehicle for the characters to have growth while also giving you this, like, jumbled, fast-paced, post-apocalyptic dystopian world that, like, yes, you have to leap sometimes before you look because, wow, everything out here is trying to kill you.
Because if you don't leap, you're gonna die.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Because episode 8 just dives 2 feet in, speaking of leaping, and in one 2-minute speech, Scarlemagne just gets his little plan out of the way, which, again, I appreciate. I had already basically figured it out. I don't need the show to keep me waiting or to attempt to create drama in a moment by revealing Scarlemagne's giant plan in episode 10. Get it out of the way. Top episode 8.
And his plan is relatively simple. Like, he gathers everybody together. Also, we finally get to know exactly how long it's been for this dystopia.
Yes.
200 years ago. I love the, like, mutes on top thing. It feels very, I don't know. There's something about it that, like, just feels very villainy.
Yes.
I get the major villain vibes that are coming off that.
I mean, villainy, but also, like, to go back to our conversation about Scarlemagne last podcast episode, villainy, but also, like, rebel leader, right? Because the humans destroyed the planet and they imprisoned animals in zoos. So now the animals have broken out of the zoos and they're like, you know what? It's our turn, and they haven't further destroyed the planet, so...
No. Well, to be fair, you get the impression that they've all been fighting each other too long to actually do anything to the planet.
I mean, fair. And they don't really use technology, right? I mean, they do, but not in a we're digging up fossil fuels way.
They don't need gas for their cars. That every car I've seen is on either a giant bird or a giant slug.
Uh-huh.
So,
yep. Or rat-powered, I guess. Or
rat-powered. Rat-powered also works. Like, we don't use gas for our cars anymore, ladies and gentlemen. We did it. So in this opening scene, and we have so much to get to, but in this opening scene, it really encapsulates the art that this show is able to pull off with the amount of showing without telling that it does. And specifically, I'm talking about where Scarlemagne is like, these are all my enslaved humans, right? And everybody's kind of looking at them like they don't fully understand what he means. And then, like they cheer along with him. And then I think he snaps and they stop instantly. Mm-hmm. And the look of like, some of it's horror, some of it's surprise, some of it's excitement on like all the rest of these mutes' faces is priceless. Of just like, oh, now we understand the power of Scarlemagne.
Yes. That's exactly it. I think some of them literally gasped in astonishment because they didn't realize that he had that level of control over all of his humans.
Toys. I mean, they're basically just toys at this point. Like, he plays around with them like they're little toy soldiers, which is unnerving. And horrifying.
And exactly what he would like them to be, right? Because he wants to have total and complete control over them so that he can build them into an army and use that army to just create this vast empire of mutes, right? Is his whole plan. And I love how absolutely chaotic he is, while at the same time being 100% in control. Like, you know what? Yep. Yes, I've got a pink car. It's mounted onto a two-headed pink and black flamingo, and I'm playing the piano as I descend into the madness. But everything here is under my control.
It's my beautiful chaotic baby. Like, I have such a soft spot for Scarlemagne. I mean, like, and not the first time, but like I have a tendency to really like villains in general. And I'm just like, oh man, Scarlemagne he's just so meaty. He's such a meaty villain. And like, I don't know. We'll get to more Scarlemagne.
Okay.
Because he makes another appearance later in these episodes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But to sort of quickly sum up this first episode, because I feel like we're going to want to talk about pieces of this episode. The through line is there's a couple different, plots happening. One of them is the A plot, which is ridiculous, which is a giant mute pigeon is a mega mute pigeon is not even a mega mute. It's just really big two-headed. Is it a mega mute? It might be.
Yeah, it's huge. It's like telephone wire. It's telephone pole tall,
Oh, that's true. It's like a story and a half tall.
Kipo tall.
It is like a story and a half tall. But yes, so this giant pigeon, two-headed pigeon, is named Beak Beak.
Beak Beak.
is terrorizing this underground community of raccoons, these beautiful trash monsters, and I love them so much, who are made up of gym bros and valley girls who have decided to completely ignore the fact that they are under attack by a giant bird because they feel like there's nothing they can do about it and they're too scared to do anything.
Yep.
That's our A plot.
Yep. And they're all dressed like 80s jazzercise creatures. Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, so the B plot.
With the poster with the 80s outfits and the big hair and the giant muscles.
We're going to have to go back and talk about these friends.
No,
because they're fantastic.
We will talk about the raccoons because they're amazing. But I wanted to get the sort of the drama-ish out of the way, which is the small sort of mini C plot is Benson and Dave. Benson is having a little bit of an existential crisis about how happy they were in Mulholland's dream. Mm-hmm. And like, will he ever feel that happy again. And his journey is about earning the cheers of other people and realizing that you have to help other people and earn these cheers and be, you know, if you want to be a hero, you have to do good deeds kind of thing. Right. And I love this journey for Benson because he was just such a go with the flow, chillax, run and hide, take what you want, like grifter dude. And I love that in one episode we get, oh no, I just have to care about people and do the right thing. And in 22 minutes, he's a completely different guy.
And he's still fun-loving and he's still a grifter. He's just he's a grifter with a little bit more depth.
Exactly. Just a little bit. We also have Wolf and Kipo, which is the real B plot, which is essentially Kipo being like, hey, you kind of opened up to me a bit back there. And Wolf is like, I don't want to talk about it. And it's like, right, but I don't see why you can't live with me in the burrow and we can still be besties for the rest of our lives in the burrow. And Wolf is still just like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't like people. On the whole, I don't like people. And she's like, she's describing all the stuff they'll do. And Wolf is like, nope, all sounds awful to me. And in the like way that Kipo does, it's just like, well, look at these beautiful raccoons. Look at how happy they are. And like trying to convince Wolf that living underground isn't so bad. But
and I don't even know if it's convince. It's just over time wear her down with relentless optimism. Like, that's it. That's Kipo's whole bag. Eventually, Wolf is just gonna give in because I am so annoying otherwise. Annoying in a lovable way.
You may not be wrong. And, 100% a lovable way. Like, I mean, Wolf... You know, Wolf enjoys Kipo's antics. Like, there's nothing about it like Wolf is never malicious towards Kipo. It's just like, I don't like people. I don't like other people. Like,
and listen, I get that because if I had to live in a tiny community underground, so I am literally trapped with people I do not want to spend time with, that sounds like a literal nightmare. Yeah. And that is what Kipo is trying to convince Wolf she would like to do. Join them in the underground burrow. And Wolf is like, ooh, people, rules.
I don't think so, but people and the and I love that you have this difference between like the raccoons they're just ignoring their problems and Wolf never ignores her problems. You know, like Wolf tries, or I think it's safe to say that Wolf tries to face her problems head on. Or if it's something too big, you know, she will run away from it. But for the most part, she's a combative person.
I think it's one of those like external, internal things. Wolf will face every single external problem head on, running right at it, stocky in hand. Internal issues? Wolf doesn't have those. Those don't exist. Those we shove down into the box that we keep inside our heart. Right?
Until a giant ram comes to break that box.
Until the feelings take over and you explode, right? I think is how I would define Wolf in terms of how she deals with her problems.
Yeah. The one last piece, which I know we'll probably talk about this anyway, but I just love that they throw in a little tidbit there that Dave's been eaten before because Dave gets eaten by the giant pigeon. And he quote unquote doesn't go down easy. And the giant pigeon like spits him out. And it's just Dave's been eaten before. Don't worry about it. Just watch. But yes, would you like to talk about the raccoons?
Sure. Why not? I mean, them and their gorgeous selves.
They're so precious.
I love the idea that I like what the show is doing where it is simultaneously constructing and deconstructing the world in which this show takes place. Right?
Right.
Because they led us to believe that there are burrow humans and there are surface humans. Fine. And the burrow humans are scared of the surface because on the surface, there are mutes. And so your brain just kind of clicks into place and you're like, oh, so mutes and surface humans live on the surface, then there are burrow humans. And what this episode does is it's like, hold on, like, actually, if there are burrow humans, logically it would make sense that there are also burrow mutes, And that's what these raccoons are. They don't go to the surface. They are terrified of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're
and they
not
also
like
have never seen humans.
No.
Which I love.
No. They're just this little niche community that basically operates as
raccoons.
as snacks for the pigeon. Which, like, what do pigeons in real life eat? I don't even know. But why does this Megamute eat raccoons? That is appalling to me. But I love the scene where it first happens because Kipo is doing her relentless optimistic thing. And she's like, look at this amazing community. They're so wonderful. We're all working together. We're going to find the lunchbox because they're looking for the Aries lunchbox, A-plot, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, this giant bird head just busts through the roof of their underground shelter and just gobbles up 2 raccoons as they're on their exercise bikes. And everyone else in the exercise bikes just keeps going.
Just
to the beat of
going.
the music. With scared looks on their faces. But what else are you going to do?
What else are you going to do? Like, there's nothing we can do. It's just the bird that comes along and eats us sometimes, and that's it. That's just our life.
They're also kind of delightfully named after pieces of garbage.
Yes! Tongue depressor.
Tongue depressor.
Tongue depressor is still my favorite. Our names come to us organically through we get our names from the trash.
So they just find something and it calls to them somewhere in their soul and they name themselves after it. It's beautiful. I think DJ Crowbar might be my favorite.
DJ Crowbar is pretty good.
That's pretty excellent. That's a DJ who knows how to have a good time. DJ Crowbar.
Yes. That's a DJ who knows how to have a good time and may or may not understand the ins and outs of B&E. But we don't know. We don't talk about that. Yeah, no, the raccoons are just so great. And I love that they... I love that they have this, like, the fear response of, like, you know, trying to... It was also a weirdly interesting... And I don't know if the creators meant this with it, but sometimes when you're on a wellness journey, you do ignore things. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, like, it was an interesting parallel between, like, no, if you just keep running, you'll just keep running. And that's it. And then you'll be in shape. And it's like, right, but what does in shape mean? Like, what is your mental health like? What are you actually doing? Mm-hmm. And I took it for an interesting, cute metaphor, but I also know it's like a kid's TV show and it's fine. But, like, you know.
I mean, you know, quotes around that. I think that this is one of those TV shows that's, quote, for children, but adults can also enjoy. Because there's a lot in this show like that I don't think little kids would pick up on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I definitely get the impression that and 100% listeners, adults can fully enjoy this show. Like, it's fun. There are some jokes I feel like are only for us. Like, there's a joke in another episode where Benson, like, his sneakers get scuffed or something. And it's like, but these are 200 years old. And I'm just like, I'm sure they were sneakers that came out in 2022. And that was part of the joke. Mm-hmm. Or 2019, whenever the show released. It's just a really interesting look at, you know, just because you're doing this one thing doesn't necessarily mean something else isn't falling apart and doesn't need your attention.
Right. Exactly. I don't know that toxic positivity is necessarily the right phrase, but it is the phrase
it's
that came to mind.
That.
It's close to that, right?
It's close to that.
It's like they're so focused on this one growth area that they're ignoring everything else in their lives. But they're doing this one thing right, and they're doing it really, really, really well. Yeah. Now, fortunately, the team is able to help them defeat Beak.
And definitely, I love that Kipo is just like, call in your grifters. And they, like, totally trick them into standing up for themselves, which I love because it's just like when someone is dealing with the kind of crippling fear that, like, you have to stay on that treadmill. And if you get off the treadmill, you'll die kind of thing. Sometimes it is good to trick them into something and then be like, right, but you did it and it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah. Look at that. You can do it.
Yeah, and that's 100% what it is. I love this scheme, by the way. The yoga instructor gets put on top of the phone poles because they're putting up a tripwire to get the other raccoons who are carrying mirrors and running to get the pigeons' attention. And then you have the huge bodybuilder dudes pulling the tripwire into place because they're big and buff.
So it's almost like a slingshot. They basically build a giant slingshot and then snap the pigeon in the butt with the slingshot so that it catapults away into, I mean, presumably it can just come back. But what they have given these raccoons is the confidence in themselves and the knowledge that they can, in fact, fight this pigeon off.
And worst case scenario, you just do this plan all over again because pigeon's not going to learn that shiny things mean a poke in the butt. It won't.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. Pigeons are supposed to be pretty smart, actually.
Pigeons are supposed to be smart. I would argue that this two-faced, it's not even two-headed. It's a two-faced pigeon. And I think it shares a brain.
Yeah, that's kind of my sense, too. Because it is one head, one set of eyes, but two beaks. Hence, beak.
Beak, beak. I love Beak, Beak. I know we've spent a lot of time on this first episode, but I just love Beak, Beak so much. He's so cute. He just wants shiny things. He's just a bird and just wants shiny things and just wants to eat.
Raccoons. Yeah,
and just eat raccoon snacks. Now, before we get off of this episode, we have to talk about the next superpower.
Oh, yes.
That comes out from Kipo, which is her fuzzy legs and her almost cat-like reflexes, one might say. Because she runs for this lunchbox that is attached to Beak Beak. Spoilers, because that's where it was the whole time, even though you were looking in that trash heap. And she snatches it, and she's got fur on her legs and her arm, and she doesn't know what to do about it. And they go back to the top of the tower where they found this lunchbox. They see the next clue because her dad left her some glasses that can allow you to see what UV or something.
I mean, yeah, I think that's what they're selling it as, almost like a black light, though that doesn't make any kind of sense. It's basically a pair of 3D glasses, but only the blue side is in. And when you wear the 3D glasses, you can see a giant clover drawn onto the middle of a field.
Exactly. And so they see this next clue. Kipo comes down back off the top of the tower, and Wolf ends up seeing her. Is it her fuzzy arm first, or is it her leg?
It's her arm, and the way that it happens is just, I mean, in classic Kipo fashion, is just bam, bam, bam through these sequence of events in roughly 30 seconds. Because don't forget, right, the C plot of this entire episode is that Kipo is trying to convince Wolf to stay in the burrow with them. So after this entire thing with Beak Beak, Wolf says, you know what, burrows are stupid, but they might be fun with you. So finally, Wolf has given in. Kipo's thrilled, goes to give Wolf a hug. And when Kipo gives Wolf a hug, as Wolf is hugging her, notices a little bit of fur, pulls the spiky sleeve off, and then sees that Kipo has her furry arm. So it's in 10 seconds of time, you go from triumphant to disaster. Utter disaster. Because the way that Wolf responds is in fear. She just backs away, her eyes are giant, and she runs. She's just out of there.
Yeah, I think she just basically repeats no and pieces out. And Benson
goes after her.
Ever the hero.
The middleman.
The middleman. He's your guy. he's your mediator. He's your guy. He runs after Wolf, and Kipo has this super sad moment where she's by herself, and then Jamak shows up, except he shows up off screen.
Yep.
And snatches her, and all we hear is Burrow Girl, and then the episode ends.
Yep. And all that, by the way, listeners, again, happens in roughly 30 seconds.
so quick. So quick.
And then we're off to episode 9 with Kipo and Baby Dave captured by Jamak and Benson chasing after Wolf. And episode 9 picks up, well, not right there, actually, with a child who you can very quickly peg as Wolf.
Ah, that's true. Yes, we have reached Wolf's tragic backstory. Mm-hmm. You have unlocked, congratulations. We have unlocked Wolf's tragic backstory.
Yeah.
I mean, a piece of it, right? But a pretty big piece of it.
Oh, significant, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this is where the roots of her abandonment issues lie.
Oh yeah, 100%. This is why she is alone all the time. This is why she doesn't make friends easily. She doesn't trust people. And that's because...
This is also why she doesn't trust wolves.
Yes. Well, particularly wolves, but also somebody who you might perceive as like a sister or a best friend is very difficult for her because the wolf family she was brought up in raised her like their own and then decided to hunt her.
Yep.
And that's just horrifying. Like there's no greater thing that I can think of to be like, yep, that would traumatize me for life 100%.
Absolutely, because she thought that they were training her so that she could become part of the pack. But actually they were training her so that she would be prey that's actually fun and challenging to capture.
Yep. And they even invite her to join the pack. They even make her pack. And then it's like, well, dinner time and like
And now there's an interesting moment, and I know we're fast forwarding, but it is kind of is what it is. There's an interesting moment in the backstory, I think, where, you know, the two grown-up wolves who are kind of acting as the parents in the situation are mostly quiet and just kind of standoffish for the entire thing. So they're just training the children wolves. And most of the children wolves basically ignore Wolf until one of them in particular accepts her, which is a pretty typical thing to happen socially, right?
Right.
But at the end of that portion of the episode, when the adult wolves basically reveal that Wolf is in fact prey and not part of the pack, I think that the little wolf who was her friend, and this was my interpretation, was surprised by that. Like, I don't think that her friends necessarily knew this was happening the whole time. Because there's this moment where the little friend wolf is like, looking at her, looking at the adults, looking at her, look at the adults. Like, wait, really? This is what's happening right now? Now, all of the other children wolves immediately jump into a circle. They're growling at her, you know, surrounding her the way one does with prey. And that's when this friend wolf turns. Basically.
Right.
And joins in with the wolves that are hunting Wolf.
Exactly.
Which I read as kind of an interesting moment because what's awful about that, or extra awful in my view, is that it's not that this friend wolf was deceiving her this entire time. And it's not that this friend wolf was lying to her. It's that that's all it takes to turn a real friend. Like, this was a real friend, and it took 3 seconds to undo all of that.
Yeah. You know, it's almost like this visceral reaction of, and I know people would look at that and be like, well, I would never. But, you know, it's this really oddly relatable human thing where it's like, but if the crowd is saying it, and if everyone around me is saying it, and the people in authority are saying it, I should be saying it. You know, and it's the thing that you have to fight against, you know, to not make the terrible choice. But like, you don't know that in the moment. And a child certainly doesn't know that in the moment. Yeah. But no, I think your read on that was 100% correct. I definitely don't think she saw that coming, because I think if she did, she was the only one with sympathy. And I think she would have probably warned Wolf to be like, hey, you should run.
Yeah, you know? Maybe. I don't know. Who's to say, right?
True. It's one of those things where it's like, I think the other wolves instantly click into predator-prey mode because they didn't form a bond.
Yeah.
right? Like, they were just like, oh, yeah, I mean, like, I respect her, but, like, you know, she's still meat.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, the sister was essentially her sister was, you know, hesitant at first. And that is like, I mean, I think I've already said it, but like, that is what makes it horrifying to watch, because obviously had things been different, she would not have done this.
Yeah.
And they all chase Wolf away. And, you know, through this whole thing, like, Benson is trying to appeal to Wolf's side of, like, you know, but this is a real friend. You don't abandon a friend. And, like, we've been doing this the whole time. And, like, you know, you and I were different. And, like, Kipo is obviously the one here. What does he say? Try to make friends with a volcano that spews out teddy bears or something? Did I write it down? Oh, no.
Yeah, no, you've basically got it. That he says that Kipo considers... the way that Kipo moves through the world, it's like the entire world is rainbows and butterflies, right?
Yeah.
And Benson and Wolf are just not those characters. On the lighter side, I do love how... So there's two separate plots going on in this episode, as we said, right? So there's Benson who's chasing Wolf. And as Benson is chasing Wolf, Wolf is having these constant flashbacks, which piece together into the story we were just telling. And then the other side of it is Jamak and Kipo and Dave, which we can discuss later, right? Since Jamak kidnapped Kipo and Dave.
Right.
I kind of love that Benson is able to keep up with Wolf for this entire episode.
I mean, just barely, like, though.
Wile E. Coyote style is able to keep up with her and eventually traps her, which is how they're able to have bits and pieces of conversation throughout the episode, right?
Right. Well, because they're also, you know, not only is Wolf running away, but they are also being pursued by the Scooter Skunks, I think they were called.
Scooter Skunks. And the Humming Bombers. The skunks who ride motorcycles, and the hummingbirds who are just obsessed with explosives. Exploding nectar. Special exploding nectar. And, you know, wear bomber jackets, because why not?
Because why not? I mean, I love the biker gang and the, like, flyboys so much in this episode. And they get close. You know, they get pretty close to them to taking them out, but, you know, they're able to evade them because, again, they're surface humans. They're able to survive.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. I like that Benson is able to keep up because he should be able to keep up, because he's been running just as much as Wolf has. Although I do love that he's like, how are you 4 feet tall and you're like scaled a truck? Like, obviously you don't need our help, but Kipo does, you know, like.
Yes. And it's also like, you obviously don't need us to survive, but isn't there more to life than that? Is literally what he says to her. Like, yeah, you don't need us to survive, but don't you want to be happy? Don't you want to have friends, family, a sister?
Yeah. I think the sister is what really messes with Wolf. Again, because she had this very traumatic thing. But, you know, eventually Benson is able to, like, you know, make all of his points. And Wolf is just afraid because it's not so much that Kipo is different. It's more like, you know, she's lived with the fact that mutes are the enemy for so long that it just didn't, you know, it was a knee-jerk reaction of like, no, my best friend is a mute. Oh, no. And, like, she eventually calms down and sort of comes back to the fold. Now, meanwhile, Kipo is on this wild, rompous ride with Jamak that is, like, it felt very, you know, like it's my turn to go on a vision quest with Zuko, you know, like... Like you go off with Jamak to learn something about yourself, you know?
I do kind of love that, because Jamak has kidnapped Kipo and Dave, and instead of acting like a person who's been kidnapped, Kipo basically takes this opportunity to vent about her friendship issues with Wolf. Like, at one point, Jamak is like, do you want to talk about it? Like, as if, he doesn't really care. He just knows that that's the thing he's supposed to say. And Kipo flops right down, crisscross applesauce is like, let me tell you. And then goes off about Wolf.
Well, the best part about that is the first thing she does is goes off about being a mute because she doesn't fully understand what that means. Yeah. And, like, it comes out of this, like, Jamak is like, what even are you? What is happening right now? Are you some kind of freak?
Yeah, he sees her eyes go cat-like and pink, and he realizes that she can see in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually thought of you so much when she was just spilling all this stuff. I'm just like, I knew that when I turned 13, like, there would be changes. And Dad was like, well, there's going to be these abnormal things. But I have hair that comes out and then goes away. Where does the hair go? Like, and also, I can smell everything, like, all the time. And it's gross.
All the time. It's disgusting. I love that in this moment, Jamak has almost a tender moment where he's actually the one who helps Kipo understand that Wolf is reacting out of fear, but not fear of Kipo, actually fear of change. And he explains to Kipo that sometimes people react oddly when something they've known for their entire lives or a significant amount of time is taken away. And the thing that was taken away from Wolf is the fact that she finally has a best friend who's like her sister and is human, right? And then all of a sudden, whoop, pulled a rug out from underneath her. She's not fully human, right? And then he literally turns on a dime. He goes from helping Kipo understand Wolf to saying, and this is a weakness. You're going to want to take advantage of it so that you can overpower Wolf in this situation.
I know. I love that he was so close.
So close. I mean, listen, it was real good advice. And he still is who he is. He still is who he is. He's a bad guy, a villain, whatever.
But I mean, like, he's growing as a person.
As Dave points out at the end of the episode, because, listen, we're just going to have to fast forward a little bit through the rest of this episode, right? Benson is chasing Wolf. Eventually, he catches her. Kipo and Jamak have a wild adventure where they escape from both Nomad frogs and the Mommy Mega Bunny yet again. Right?
Yep.
And after all of this, they actually have like one more giant fight because the scooter skunks, the mod frogs, and the humming bombers all catch Benson and Wolf.
And the wolves. And
the Newton wolves. They all catch Benson and Wolf at the same time. And then Jamak and Kipo roll up and they do the Mega Bunny fur thing again to save the crew, which fine. They reuse the gimmick again. I'm not going to hold it too much against them, right? But after all of this, Jamak decides that he owes Kipo and he lets her go. He lets her go after giving her one final piece of advice, which is that you have to be selfish in order to survive on the surface. Yeah. And one day, her insistence on helping other people is going to be her end. And then he lets her go.
He lets them all go. He has all of them there, and he just sort of turns around and like waits for them to leave. But of course, he has to get in one last no, really, get out of here before I change my mind, and then they run.
Whoa, she changed your heart, dude.
Yeah, exactly. She changed your heart. But, like, this is the episode where, like, these episodes in particular are where I really think that we see how Kipo changes people, right? Like, had Benson and Kipo never met, Benson wouldn't have had this change of heart of, like, I need to be helping people, right? Like, he would have just, he probably would have still been with Mulholland and, like, totally, just been a skeleton and like turned to dust.
Or he would have, you know, stolen Stocky and the bike and just continued on his merry way looking for soda and new tunes.
Right. And like had Wolf not decided to help Kipo, she obviously would have just stayed alone in the middle of nowhere, just surviving. Right. And like Kipo offers her a way that she doesn't need to just survive. She can actually live a full life. And it's just look, nothing will ever change Dave. Dave is beautiful and perfect, exactly the way he is.
Listen.
I don't know.
Really
maybe it
hard.
will.
It's really hard to grow and change when you are a character who is constantly growing and changing physically and going back to being a baby and then getting, you can't. It's just, it's not fair.
You're not wrong. And also just immortal.
Dave experiences time in the same way we do. Yeah, exactly.
He absolutely doesn't. But like, I think Dave, like, Benson is sort of carefree, and it's hard to say if it was like the Dave influence or not, but maybe we'll get to that Benson backstory and we'll know. But like Dave is the really carefree one because he'll just molt and change and molt and change and molt and change and that's it. I think you make a really good point that it's like, well, when you have a character who all by themselves changes constantly, what change is going to stick to that? Nothing.
Exactly.
I think that leads us to the last episode.
Yeah, basically. There's two very quick things that happen right at the end of this episode and take us into episode 10, which is that Kipo has an idea. She knows how they're going to get through the field of dogs, and she cracks the can of tuna, which is my favorite thing.
Yes.
And then the bee that's been bugging Jamak for the entire episode, and that was just acting as kind of a E-plot nuisance, right?
Right.
Was actually an agent for Scarlemagne. So the bee goes back to Scarlemagne and tells him exactly where everyone is, and that is how Scarlemagne finds them and follows them.
Yes.
Okay.
I forgot about that bee.
The bee!
I love that bee.
I clocked the bee right at the beginning of the episode and was like, this is going to be narratively relevant. I believe in this show.
This is going to come through. But yes, so we get to episode 10. We get a little, like, we finally get this beautiful payoff of having the Timbercats come back. And like,
yes.
And like, we need your help. Except it's a field of giant dogs, and the Timbercats are like, actually, we don't mess with that.
Yeah, we don't do near dogs.
We can't help you. And then Kipo's like, well, can I borrow your flea? And they're like, well, the second and the lieutenant is like, sure, you can. And the leader of the Timbercats is like, that's my flea. I get to say if my war parasite can go with and who they can go with. And it's like, no, you ate the cat food. You ate the tuna. You have to do what they ask.
Those are the rules.
Those are the rules.
That we have rules. Okay, so the team is going to ride Pierre through the field, right? Which is how they're going to use Yum Yum and Molly's help. Because, at the end of the day, Yum Yum and Molly don't actually do anything, which I was a little bit sad about. But I'm at least glad that we got to see them again. But even before that, the other piece that we get in this episode and that I found really interesting is that we get the burrow attack from the perspective of everyone else who lived in the burrow. So the perspective, like what happens after Kipo is pushed into the water pipe by her dad, right? And it's cool because her dad is able to save everyone in the burrow by getting them into the bunker, right? And away from the Megamute. And then what we find out is that there's a council. Like, there's an actual council of burrow humans, and these aren't just like little ragtag neighborhoods of humans who live underground. They actually have a government with a council, and every single burrow has a council member. And the way that the burrow humans got to their second burrow was through a labyrinth of sewers and abandoned subway tunnels, which only the council knew about. Dad didn't even know that this second borough existed.
I know. So I poor Leo Oak.
Yeah, I know, but it's okay because he doesn't like. It's one of those funny things where when the show started, because of the way it was set up, it was like, oh yeah, like obviously Leo is the leader of the borough, you know, Kipo's dad, leader of the borough. And my brain just kind of clicked into basically the structure that so many shows would have you fall back on. And that isn't in fact what's happening. He's just another citizen. And so is Kipo.
He's just he just teaches sciences.
He's a science teacher.
He's a science teacher who wrote a book.
And plays the guitar. I don't think that Benson plays the guitar. I think Benson just is really into old world music.
A DJ.
And is a DJ. Yeah. Okay, so fast forwarding, the team is on Pierre. They're pouncing through the field, and eventually they're able to get past all of the giant dogs and the corgis. And Kipo's dad, whose name is Leo, finds them. They go underground, and Leo proceeds to take the team on a mini tour of the underground, right? So we can discuss that in a second. But as they are heading underground, Scarlemagne, who's been following them this entire time, sees them. And so now he knows where the entrance to the burrow is, right? So that's kind of the tempo of the episode. That while Kipo and team are underground going through their happy little tour and reuniting with each other, what we the audience know that Scarlemagne is just outside and this army is about to come crashing through.
Scarlemagne is about to crash this party. Mm-hmm. And you know, I like that we know that. I like that that's, you know, that is a plot device because you're able to understand, like, you're able to get the introduction of the burrow. And again, they're able to do this in a very easy way where it's like, obviously Kipo has friends down here, right? Like, and she knows people. And, you know, of course she's ecstatic to see her father, and her father's super great, you know, and I did like that Benson was like, they are definitely related.
Yeah.
Because like Leo also says something super science-y, and it's like, yeah, that's about right.
There it is.
And I like that Hoag, Hoag,
the council member,
the council member is like, this is gonna sound weird, but like, I'm happy he's a blonde dude and like awful. I'm just like, yes, thank you for that, because obviously, right? Like, and I'm sure he takes his power way too seriously, you know, and like, yes, you are burdened with keeping the borough safe, but you also, you know, if you had shared that information, Kipo would never be on the surface, and then Scarlemagne would never be after you in the first place. Like, you know,
he's
like,
one of those guys who's like, you know, that he's, at least for right now, trying to do the right thing, but you kind of hate him, and you can't help but hate him.
And you can't help but hate him. It's also one of those people who, like, you brought this on yourself, my dude, but you'll never be able to tell them that because they'll never be able to believe you. But so, you know, we have this beautiful little reunion. We have the introduction of like Wolf and Benson into the society. We have Benson getting what I assume is his first crush. Because how many people has he come across that are like young, cute kids who he can just be like...
I loved it. It was instant because the guy was so cute in Benson's eyes, right?
No.
And then it was one of those moments where Benson looks up and the rest of the world fades away and the background is all pink and there's this like glorious crush music that's playing over whatever the other person is saying.
I know.
And then it turns out that not only is the other person physically attractive, the other person also recognizes the DJ that was playing on Benson's little Walkman.
Yep.
And so they have a love of old world music in common.
They instantly have a bond of a thing. And like, it's so cute and it's so good. And it's like, it's just a flash in the pan. But like, I love that journey for Benson. It's great. I'm into it. I'm here for it.
And then Scarlemagne attacks! Kipo is hit in the head with a giant piece of ceiling, really, because Scarlemagne has crashed through the roof. We get a musical interlude, randomly.
Yes, wait, what did I write down? I wrote down music video in the middle of the episode, lol.
Because Kipo's been hit in the head with this, and she's in shock for a second. So we get a musical interlude about Purple Jaguar Eyes. Hint about what's coming up.
And and then when we finally get snapped back to reality, she's holding up this piece of ceiling with a giant jaguar paw.
It's so good. It's so good.
It's amazing.
And see, the pieces are coming together. What I realized was I was confused. It's one of those things where, when people ask you, like, oh, what's the difference between an alligator and a crocodile? And, like, I know that, like, one of them has teeth that stick out and one of them doesn't have teeth that stick out. And there are all these little things. That's like the difference between a cheetah and a jaguar. And I know that their markings are different. Like, one of them is more like interlocking circles and one of them isn't circles at all. So anyway, it wasn't a cheetah print, it's a jaguar print. It's a really long way of explaining that.
Just fix your own guffaw. To be fair, I felt weird correcting you because I was like, but is that a spoiler?
Not really. I think it's just like I mixed up the two things.
I mean, fair.
Like, clearly it was cat-like in patterns, But
that was also why I was like, I mean, she got cat. It's fine.
I mean,
cat
listen, if there was literally a jaguar mute who was currently in the show and it was
in canon.
Exactly. And it could be revealed that that's like a secret parent something. Then sure, perhaps that would have been a spoiler. But the fact that we don't have that character yet means that this is just a question of patterns.
No, fair. It's really funny because for some reason my brain also, like, this is a twofold problem because my brain was like, oh, wait, it is Jaguar. But then my brain was also like, is it Jaguar? Wait.
Which one's the one with the interlocking pieces? No, yeah.
So I constantly forget that with Kipo, it's Jaguar for some reason. Like, it is specifically Jaguar. But first of all, I love the song that plays for her little musical interlude where she, all of a sudden saves her friends. But then we get this fight, and it's really good because you get, this new and improved Benson who's like, but we have to save people. That's who we are now. We save people. And he jumps into the fray. And then we also get Kipo, who's hiding with Wolf, and Wolf is hiding with her. It isn't until Kipo's like, I have this weapon right here. What if we, like, messed up some people?
Her weapon being her arm. Like, she is
her
the weapon.
Giant jaguar arm.
She is the weapon.
And Wolf is like, I thought you'd never ask. And then they run out to fight things.
I love that. You don't have to ask me twice. The music is fantastic. I mean, to be fair, Benson is still Benson, and he's growing and he's helping other people. But the person he specifically went to go and help was his crush.
100. Yeah, no, that's exactly what that was.
A little bit of ulterior motive going on. It's okay. We get it.
It's exactly what that was. He was paying attention to his crush, and he didn't want to see his crush get trampled by a flamingo, by a giant flamingo.
Or captured by a giant flamingo.
Or captured.
Fair. Now, who does get captured by the giant flamingo? Kipo's dad. Leo.
After a very interesting conversation with Scarlemagne, where Leo calls him Hugo. And they obviously have some kind of rapport because they chat like they know each other.
Like, Scarlemagne literally calls Kipo's dad my old pal Leo and says he misses Leo's visits. And then Leo calls Scarlemagne Hugo, which Scarlemagne says never to mention that name again. That's not his name. He is Scarlemagne now.
Yep.
And so I'm just going to say it. You've seen the show. I haven't seen the show. Feel like Leo is a zookeeper of some sort. Maybe he worked at the zoo. I don't know, it's kind of interesting, kind of the wrong branch of science, but maybe he's just into all kinds of science. Because I was like, wait a minute, he's not a biologist, he's an astronomer. But I guess, we'll find out more about that later. I think that if he were a biologist, I would have been like, oh, yeah, obviously, I got it.
There it is, down in one. Done. I like your idea that you think he's a zookeeper. I'm digging that. We'll have to see if it's true.
Or a scientist who, I don't know, like, I hope he didn't experiment on animals. That doesn't seem like a very Leo thing to do. I'm hoping that he just, like, visited the zoo because the zoo was next to the planetarium. You know? Like how some people like to go to the zoo on Tuesday afternoons.
And this is where I carefully try not to react to anything you said.
I'm just
I think it's a solid guess.
Wildly.
And you know, we'll see what happens. No, speculate wildly. Look, if there's one thing this show invites, it's wild speculation because literally so much nonsense happens in this whole show. But yeah, so Leo is captured. He's taken away. And we think Kipo is captured. But we get this beautiful, like, you know, Wolf stands up and you can tell she's going to give this, like, we're going to get Kipo back, and like this big, huge speech.
She actually cries. She has a solid cry where she's like, she gets it out. And then she's like, I'm going to find her.
We're going to find her. We're going to get her. We're going to make sure she's safe and we're going to save her. And then you hear this, like, commotion above. And Kipo has taken control over one of the two-headed flamingos. Yes. And it's like, we're going to save my dad. And then the episode ends.
Like, mid-air, Kipo punched out the giant flamingos that were gripping her by the arms and legs. And I love this for her because I was pretty disappointed before that happened. Because I was like, oh, man, like, season 2 is going to start with the team separated just when we got them all together. Like, I don't want to call out another specific show that is currently all available on Netflix, but there is another show that is currently all available on Netflix that insists on separating the cast when half the reason people watched the show to begin with was the chemistry of the cast. I was very briefly peeved when they separated the crew. And then they got them all together and I was like, all right, this is great. This is why we're here. We're here because the Found family is going to travel together on their next mission, which is to save the dad and the rest of the Burrow humans, obviously. And now their family has grown a little bit, assuming that Benson's crush comes with them. I don't know if Benson's crush is going to come with them, but that seems like a really big team.
It does seem like a big team.
Because Dahlia and Asher were there, too.
Yes. Dahlia and Asher, they feel like I know it's unfair because I've seen it before, but, like, they feel a little bit like B team. You know, like, they're still Kipo's friends.
Yeah.
But, like, you can still be Kipo's friends and be, like, B team and, like, you're Burrow humans, so you don't have the experience of the rest of them. So, like, maybe we can find a job for them, too, you know?
I mean, listen, there are friends that you grew up with and that you love and care about, and then there are friends that you fought off literal giant monsters with. You know? Like, they're just going to be different.
They're just different friends. And that's fine. This is fine. I think that leads us into one more things, actually, because I think we're there. Do you know yours?
Nope.
No? Do you want a second to think about it? Wait, I think I have mine. So Leo Oak is played by Sterling K. Brown. And I love that.
He's great.
He's awesome. And, like, I love that he also sings in that video, you know, in what I'm calling the music video. Like, that is him singing. And I'm here for it. I'm here for him being a dad. He's also, like, goofy like she is. And it's precious. I love it. Do you still need more time to think of one?
No, it's just, I'm just going to quote my favorite line in these 3 episodes, which is, look, we're two mighty evergreens connected by a heartstring.
Yes.
A heartstring.
A heartstring. But how?
I died.
And what was it? How zen would it be to do tree pose on top of a tree?
For the rest of that episode, I did not refer to that thing as a tripwire or a slingshot. I did, in fact, refer to it as the heartstring.
The heartstring. I mean, because that is what it is, Danielle. That's what it is.
The heartstring.
It's the heartstring. Oh, but yes, season 2 on the horizon. I think next week, folks, we'll be watching Rainbow Bright, the 1985 classic.
Oh boy, can't wait. Speaking of things,
it's going to be a lot of colors.
I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about it. Not even what it's about. I can guess the aesthetic based on the
on the poster.
And I feel like it's going to be a bit of a wild ride. So maybe, in keeping with Kipo, ? I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I was looking for strong cartoon female-led movies, and this was the one I came up with. I do think it has that sort of Kipo all over the place-ness. So I think in that sense, yes, it definitely tells a similar story, I think. But no, I'm excited for you to see it because I've watched it a million times.
All right, listeners. Well, between now and then, we would love to hear from you. Please check us out at Binge O'Clock Pod on Twitter and Facebook, where you can answer the question, if you could be named after a piece of garbage, what would it be and why? You can also email us at bingeoclockpod@gmail.com. And don't forget, we have a Patreon. Find us at patreon.com/BockPod.
That's right. And tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones, tell the live lobsters in your life about Binge O'Clock, and we will see you next time.